So we're in Goopy today and I've planned to visit the old wartime RAF Airfield and Museum of East Kirkby. We're at the hole for runway 20 at North Weald, ironically another wartime RAF base, and would you believe it, I've got a front row seat as a Harvard lines up and departs from the hard runway, and then, and I really have to pinch myself, a Spitfire takes off from the grass runway right next to me. I feel the power of the Rolls-Royce Merlin engine as the Spitfire gets airborne less than 50 feet away. Amazing.
That was cool. That was cool.
We've got a lot of warbirds based at North Weald, but I've never had that happen to me before. What a fitting way to start this flight back in time. One of the best things about where I live in the UK is that the countryside is covered in old wartime airfields. Some, like Duxford and Stomares, are still operating with heritage and private aviation, and also boast interesting museums to visit. Others, like RAF Nuthampstead and RAF Nettershall, are nothing more than little grass strips, and some, like RAF Sudbury and RAF Rivenhall, are gone for good. However, although East Kirkby in Lincolnshire was an RAF bomber command station during the war and remained under RAF operation until 1970, today it is no more than a small grass field with a couple of short runways cut into it. But apart from the loss of the main runways, it still retains almost all of the wartime infrastructure, all refurbished to an almost original state and laid out as a museum and memorial showing how it would have been during its glory days. My route today takes me out of North Weald's runway 20, where I turn west through the TMZ, then turn at the VRP at Ware to take up a northerly route all the way to East Kirkby, a distance of just 90 nautical miles and a flight time of 50 minutes. You join me as I've cleared the low controlled airspace between London Luton and London Stansted airports, and I'm looking for a nice big break in the clouds to be able to climb up on top, up to my desired cruising level of 7,500 feet, where the air will be smoother and the wind more favourable. Okay, that one will do. I select climb power and I route my way up, keeping the ground in sight until I'm well on top of the broken cloud. So we're making good progress up above the clouds, and now would be a good time to look at the chart for East Kirkby. East Kirkby sits under the stub of RAF Coningsby's MATS, or Military Air Traffic Zone. At just 33 feet above mean sea level, it lists two grass runways, 0826 at 600 metres or 1,968 feet long, and 0624 at 590 metres or 1,935 feet long. There's a pond and tall trees at the western end of the runway and a concrete area at the start of runway 24, which you are not allowed to land on. Even though a large part of the old RAF East Kirkby main hard runway is still present, and it looks lovely and long, it is not part of the current East Kirkby and you're not allowed to use it. With only 20 miles to go, I'm looking for a nice big hole to descend back down under the cloud. To be fair, it's pretty easy as there are lots of big breaks, so I'll choose one and drop back down under the cloud for the rest of the flight.
Waddington Lars, Golf Oscar, Papa Yankee.
I can't get anyone on the radio as I approach the stub of the Coningsby Mats. It's the weekend and these places are not normally active anyway. However, I decide not to fly into it, but instead, as there's no obstacles around and the surface is pretty flat, to fly under the 1,000 foot base of the stub. There's also a requirement to join and leave the circuit at East Kirkby not above 500 feet. As I've not visited before, I overfly the field to establish the condition of the runway. Looks great, and so once around the circuit, I set up on final for runway 26. As I fly down final, I run alongside the fantastic disused main runway of the original airfield. There's some small trees at the start of 26, which will shorten the runway's available length, as I'll have to fly over them. However, at less than half a mile out, I change my mind and opt for runway 24 instead.
Actually, I prefer that one.
As even though I can't land on the concrete, I can fly low over it, giving me a nice early touchdown point. I park up and visit the CAF to pay my landing fee and grab a free coffee. It's then a walk around the old control tower museum. There's a real wartime vibe to this place, and I'm so glad I came. Then it's a visit to Just Jane, one of only 3 working Lancasters left in the world. Although not currently a flying example, she is used for taxiing visitors around the airfield. The aim is that the dedicated volunteers will eventually get her fully airworthy and back in the skies where she belongs. Right, it's time to go, and I line up on runway 26. The wind is light and we accelerate quickly down the fairly smooth strip.
Build up speed. Those trees aren't very nice, are they?
That climb out though with those really tall trees is quite intimidating. However, they're to the side of the runway and not an issue. Saying that, I wouldn't fancy that runway on a blustery day. I can imagine those trees would cause a fair bit of turbulence. I turn south and remain under the mats before climbing back up above the clouds again. I'm often asked why, even when there's good visibility and a high ceiling below cloud, I would take the added risk of flying visually on top of the cloud. Well, there's a few reasons. Firstly, by flying higher I can take advantage of more favourable winds. Secondly, the air is much smoother above the cloud and there's also a lot less traffic, and they're easier to see in the unlimited visibility on top of the cloud. And finally, well, it's just more fun. However, saying that, I can only do this when I'm 100% sure there will be a big enough break in the cloud to be able to descend in good time and where the airspace allows this. I am only allowed to fly VFR or visual flight rules in this aircraft, even though I do have an instrument qualification, so I must keep clear of that cloud at all times. I'm not returning to North Weald, I'm popping into Andrewsfield, another wartime airbase, to meet some friends, and it's not long before I'm lined up on final for Andrewsfield's runway 27 left.
Got Puppy Yankee, Sport Cruiser final 27 left. Just between 230 degrees 4 knots. Puppy Yankee.
With a very low sun right in my face, making this a tricky little landing. What a wonderful day. Thank you so much for joining me, and if you ever get the chance, you must visit East Kirkby, by air or by car. Thank you so much for watching. Fly safe and Shortfield out.